Well, good morning and welcome to another edition of Litter Media Live, a special edition. You see the pumpkin making its appearance because it is time to talk about the Sporting Pumpkin, and we've got the co-founder of the Sporting Pumpkin with us, Mr. John Howley. Thank you for stopping by.
Hey, thanks for the invite. I'm excited to do this.
I was so excited for a Pickaway County talk. I wore my Taze Valley shirt.
Well, I was thinking about my colors, and I'm like, well, Dan's a Taze Valley guy. I'll go with the navy blue.
And Mike's wearing that extra bright, well, it's not exactly scarlet for Westfall or red for, I don't know what that
Circleville.
is.
It's a Circleville Logan Elm.
Sure.
The yellow doesn't quite work. Right. It's close enough.
It looks more like the Golden Arches of McDonald's.
Exactly.
So, my work in there. You're going to see some of the work that John has done behind us here on our big screen that we have for you here today. And there's one special guy right there just a moment ago, Cam McDaniel from Taze Valley, who won a state championship and had an opportunity to meet with Trent as well from Circleville, who won the state title there. So pretty big time. So we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more coming up in just a moment. Our chat with John Howley is brought to you by our friends at Tomlinson Insurance Agency.
This is Andy Tomlinson. When insuring what's important to you, our agents are there when you need us the most. Tomlinson Insurance, for the best coverage at the best cost. Visit us online at tomlinsonins.com to learn more.
Well, the Sporting Pumpkin, this is what you'll see when you go to their website, sportingpumpkin.com. You will notice a lot of sports only. No news. It's all sports. And that's something that is right in your wheelhouse, but Mike and I's wheelhouse as well.
Oh, yeah. I've been so officially basketball and spring were my 30th seasons because I started like covering basketball, and then next football season will be my 30th football season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seems like yesterday, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It's like, a couple years ago, I was looking at we cover 5 schools, from in the Circleville area, and then, the 4 county schools in Amanda. I guess, 6 now with New Hope. But at one time, of the 10 girls and boys basketball coaches, 5 of them I'd covered as players.
Wow.
I'm not sure what the count is right now. I think it's only like 2 right now, but.
That speaks well for the fact that you have longevity. No one's thrown you out, and you've seen some people stay home in that respect. I like that.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's like to see these guys that and girls that have grown up and stay, come back home and work, and then now they work with kids and trying to do the same thing, getting the same opportunities they had. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know a lot of our viewers have seen John on the sidelines for many years. So let's go back, like we did with Tom Wilson here about a month ago up at Lancaster. How did John Howley get started in this?
Yeah, so my only actual newspaper class was in high school. I was a radio major at Bowling Green, and I was working at a radio station in Fostoria after I graduated, and they were going satellite, as you guys might be familiar with that concept.
WFOB?
It was BVI, the FM station. Yes.
I used to be the voice on WBVI.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we carried
Gus Sierra and all those guys.
Yes, It's been a while since I've seen Gus, but yeah, ran into him about 15 years ago, and he sort of remembered me.
Yeah.
But but no, it was like, they started carrying the Reds, and then they're going satellite once the Reds season was over, and of course it was a year the Reds were terrible. So then I was talking to a friend of mine she goes, oh, yeah, I'm working at the newspaper in Circleville. I'm like, oh, there you go. She's like, they're hiring. I'm like, okay, came back in, got a job, did regular news for a year, did a little bit of sports while I was doing that, and then that sports guy left, and I took over the sports, and yeah.
The rest is history.
It's been, a long time.
Before we push on, let me go back to WFOB and WBVI. Those were radio stations owned by Dave Smith, who owned WFCB here in Chillicothe and WCHI before iHeartMedia and Clear Channel all came into play. Mm-hmm. So we have a different connection.
I didn't. Yeah,
we didn't even realize.
Exactly. At the time, I think they were owned by the Ropey Corporation, which was a local. Yeah, I don't know what they made. I never got into that, but
the rope.
2 Ps. So
Oh, okay, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, that wasn't quite it. But it was fun. Yeah, that was fun. And then so I started doing sports, and at the time we had the 5 high schools. Of course, the Circleville Logan Elm, Tays Valley Westfall, and then Amanda Clear Creek, which is just over the border. Well, Stoutsville's right on the edge of the county, and Amanda's just it's about the same distance to Amanda as it is to Westfall. So they were just natural fits, and it's been a lot of good memories over the last 30 years, and a lot of great people, and a lot of fun kids. And
So how did the idea for Sporting Pumpkin come along?
well, this is a byproduct of COVID, because when COVID came around, Brad Morris, who was the sports editor at the Herald, was laid off, and they told me it's like obviously they don't need any part timers because there's nothing going on. And then when the next school year started back up, they weren't going to bring Brad back at his normal position, and they never even contacted me about doing anything. And Brad and I were talking, and I had a little website that I'd throw my stories on just so I'd know how to use WordPress. And he's like, "Hey, you want to cover games and put them on your site?" And I said, "No, let's just start something brand new." I said, fresh, and it's all just like that. And so 3 years later, going strong, and it's getting out there.
Like anything that starts off, you do it for free, pretty much. And then you start having advertisers take interest because suddenly their kids, the community's kids, are being able to be seen somewhere.
Yeah. And that's what, so, because when we first started, I told Brad, I said, just, you can sell ads and just keep the money. I got a day job. So, and then, so it went about a year, I guess it was a year and a half, or maybe this was the first year we started doing the sponsors. He handles all that. So that's it. I sell photos on the side. I enjoy doing this. It gives me an excuse to buy expensive camera toys, and
So when you see that Brad has a 3-story house, he's driving 3 different cars, you're going to say, "Wait a minute,
well,
I need to get back in here."
When he sells it for a couple $1 million to ESPN or somebody, then.
Brad really stands out. When you see Brad in the ball game, I could see him with dollar bills just going around like this.
You talk about the this new medium, and we're all experiencing this. When you look back over the 30 years, how much what we used to do has changed. I mean, some of that is still around, but it's evolved in all these other things.
Oh, well, let's look at a Friday night football game. I would take 2 rolls, 36 exposure film, and that was it. Maybe some nights I'd only shoot the 1 roll.
Yeah.
And was it last Friday? I come back from the league track meet. I got to look at 400 pictures.
Wow.
And because it's just the way it is, the technology is there. I did learn this year in football season, if I took my camera off 14 frames a second and took it down to like 7, I didn't have nearly as many photos to look at, and the pictures actually ended up being more and more usable. So I'm like, you don't need quantity, you just need quality.
I did the same thing. We were when we started doing this, we started shooting in 4K, and this is a secret, I guess. I'm divulging here, but when Mike joined us, it became a problem to load that because it takes longer. The files are much bigger, so we popped down to HD just to speed the process along a little bit. Then this year, we got away from doing some of that, especially during basketball. I don't think I even took a camera out. Everything was shot with our iPhones.
Oh, yeah.
And just trying to maneuver what we can, because when we get back here, it's just so much easier to airdrop it to the Mac and go.
Yeah, turn around. Yeah, and the cameras, like my iPhone's a little older because I don't want to buy another one. But
because you need to take out
well, yeah, I can take out a loan
mortgage
to
on your
camera.
house. Yeah.
But yeah, you're exactly right. It's like you can get this huge file, but hey, then you got to process it, and then it's like it doesn't really matter, because especially if you're watching on your computer, or like they're going to consume it on their phones.
Right.
So what does 4K do on a 6-inch screen?
Right.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, just in the studies we've seen, about 85% of the material that we produce is viewed on one of these, not so much the desktop computer, you would think.
Yeah, it says everybody's on their phones, and it is what it is. So you don't need all that image quality. It's great because you can fix mistakes easier, but so technology's made the job easier and made the job a lot harder because it's more to go through.
Because now we have to think.
Yes.
But there's no darkroom days.
No, that was kind of fun. I did enjoy back in the day. You go in there and you play with the enlarger and run it through the chemicals and wait. And
And then be disappointed when it was out of focus. It's like,
Nothing worse than the one time I realized I had run a roll of color film through the black and white developer, and it doesn't work.
No,
it does not work. So
and you can't get it back.
And those were shots that I was going to use for a basketball preview cover. I thought, I'm like, oh, this would be good. So I got some different, and so it didn't work out.
Yeah, but it was an old-timey look.
Yeah.
Maybe a retrospect special. With you and Dan, both, you're now settled in an area where you didn't grow up.
Oh, no, I grew up.
So you were a Circleville kid originally?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you went away to school and then came back?
Yes, yeah. I can, it takes me 12 minutes to ride my riding mower from my house to my mom's house to mow grass.
Oh. If you need your yard mowed, is the guy.
Well, no, because I broke the belt last fall and forgot about that, so I still haven't got it back on yet. So
we know a guy that can sell you a new lawnmower.
Sure you do.
Just down the road,
Hometown Motors.
There you go.
Put that in there. The difference between our days at Bowling Green, I was only there for Buckeye Boys State, so mine was a 9-day stay, and I didn't have to pay to be there. On the other side, you got an education out of it.
Yeah, and it was warm there when you were there.
Yeah,
it gets
very warm.
If you're not familiar with Northwest Ohio, it gets very cold and very windy.
Yes,
but no, it was a great 4 years and met some great people up there. Friends, next weekend I'm going up for their third kid's graduation party up toward, and the 2 weeks after that, another one of my good friends going to Akron for their kid's graduation. So it's like, made some great friends up there, got a, good education that, like I said, even though it wasn't my major to do this, just education never hurts, and just more experiences, and it just works, just makes, makes you a better more well-rounded person. So.
What is it about, we've talked to some other people that have been in on our Pickaway County special edition, but for yourself, what is it about Pickaway County that is so special to you that you wanted to, make this your lifelong home?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't a goal, just the way it worked out. But, one of the advantages like Pickaway County has is you're out in the middle of nowhere, so to speak, but you're half hour from Broadway shows, from 45 minutes from an international airport. Unfortunately, as anybody from Pickaway County knows who looks at social media, we do not have a steakhouse. But there's a steakhouse in Lancaster and Chillicothe and Columbus, which is why we don't have one, because they're all 30 minutes away. But it's just a big local joke on all the posts. When's the steakhouse coming? And it's just a great place. Circleville's been 13,000 people, give or take, for the last 10, 20 years. There's some more growth coming. It'll probably, it'll get a couple more thousand people before it's all said and done. But it's easy to get everywhere. We went to the Reds game the other day. It was hour and 40 minutes, hour and 45 minutes. I know I haven't been to a Browns game up there for a while, but it's 3 hours to the stadium, less than 4 hours to get to Pittsburgh, which is where my parents were from. So you can be everywhere in no time, and you're out still away from, for the most part, from the big city problems.
Yeah. The changes that have been taking place in Pickaway County over the recent years, losing industry. DuPont was one of the big employers, still is, but then here comes Sofidel. Here comes, Franklin County moving down into Pickaway County with industry and warehousing and things of that sort. It has become a changing location, hasn't it?
Oh, we were out driving around. My day job now with the Board of Elections, so we were out checking polling locations. We had to do disability assessments every 2 years. So we're driving around. We're up around Commercial Point yesterday, and I'm just like, there's a couple of roads I hadn't been on for quite a while. And I'm like, there's a lot of houses. I mean, and there's just more coming and more coming. Obviously, the northern part of the county is growing. What'll help with part of that is that area south of Rickenbacker's warehouses, so that won't be. We're not going to quite become Delaware County, but it's it's an attractive place to live. The good schools, and again, you can be anywhere you want to be with short time. So,
Speaking of schools, we have seen additions at Westfall recently. Tays Valley continues to grow.
Yes.
The number of buildings they have is absolutely incredible. Circleville has its new school, relatively new, and now Logan Elm is in the middle of potentially opening this weekend. Not this weekend, this coming school year.
They're not in the middle. They're not in the middle. They're like
above.
in the because we drove by there the other day and it's like, oh, that is. I haven't been by there in about a month and I'm like, it is. The buildings look. From the outside they look great. Of course, I'm sure there are tons of stuff they're still doing inside because it's still got 3 months before school or 4 months before school reopens. But it looks great out there. I know they had open houses at all the old elementary schools a couple weeks ago, I think. I saw a lot of people posting about that, going out and seeing where they went to school. And some of those buildings have been there for 50, 60, 80 years. I don't know. Somebody referred to them, the old chimneys where brick walls, wood in the middle. And it's as a safety thing, they're like, they're going to miss those schools, but as a safety thing, I'm sure they're glad to be out of there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the opportunities I had here a couple of weeks ago was to go up to, and in fact, Dan and I both were up at Ohio Christian University, and we'd both been up there before, but looking in their business incubator building, I'd been in there before, but they're doing some new things in there. A lot of people, for the people that live in those communities, they know what's there. But for people visiting from other counties, it's like, wow, I didn't realize that was there.
Well, and that's Ohio Christian's probably a great example of they're right there, and they were Circleville Bible College when I was growing up, and somewhere 15, 20 years ago they become Ohio Christian. But there's a lot of people in town really who I don't think have any idea what goes on out there, and it's like anything else. You have what you do, and if you don't necessarily interact with the university, but that incubator building is beautiful, and they built that probably 10 years ago. Maybe longer. Time flies. Their facilities out there are amazing. Seems like I got there every year for New Hope. New Hope's playing in their basketball state championships out there. That gym is really nice, and they open that up for the Christian School Association to come in and have their championships every fall and every spring or winter. So, they seem to be a great member of the community, and I think it's just probably like a little hidden gem for Circleville. What's going on out there at the Bible College.
Speaking of championships, let's take a moment to talk about some of the championships you've been involved with. Tays Valley has had a state softball championship within the last 10 years. You've got appearances in the Final Four by Logan Elm in basketball for boys and girls in the last, 30 years. Yeah. You've had the opportunity to be at some of this. And then even the games that aren't state-level championships, I see Tays Valley lost a heartbreaker last night after winning a heartbreaker the time before.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great memories of it. Probably the first when I just started, I was just helping out was when Logan Elm girls made their Final Four run. Another guy was the main sports guy at the time. And then Amanda made their football runs. That first game with Liberty Center where is what it was. Yeah. I know it's one of those things you made your second in the state, but it's disappointing when you lose. It's like it's probably better. You almost wonder if it's better to lose in week 10 and not make the playoffs than to lose in week 14 or week 15. But then they came back and won a couple state championships, and you guys have worked with Ron Hinton over the years, and that's just a treat to do that. And we've the Tays Valley went to a Final Four and lost one year, and then they come back a couple years later and win that game. That 14-inning Westfall game a couple years ago. Probably my favorite stories from that is if you guys are probably familiar with the stadium up there, but they have TV platforms on the first and third base side. I shot most of the game over by first base, and I'm like, about the fifth inning, I go over to that third base TV platform because the way the angles worked out, I thought it might be some good celebration shots at the end. And then we go into inning 8 and inning 9 and inning 10, and there'd be a ground ball and they catch it, throw the guy out, and the camera guy would just be like, oh. And I asked him, I said, you been here all day? He's like, oh yeah. And that was game 4, so he was ready to go. But man, when they got that ball through in the 14th inning and won that game, boy, that was something special.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between covering a baseball or softball game, extra innings like that, because the weather's a little more it's easier to do that than an extra period for football.
Yes.
Overtime in football, you're talking November, early December, much different circumstances.
Oh, yeah, because the one when the Clear Creek played St. Henry the second time, they were at Massillon in the state championship game. That's a game that St. Henry won. But, oh, man, it was cold that day. I was like, oh, why am I here again?
It's for the kids.
That's right, it is. And it's still fun, but, yeah, it was like, man, it was cold.
And we were complaining about the small press box, and you're down there suffering.
Exactly. I had to be sure I grabbed the camera, my monopod in the right spot, because it was metal with a rubber grip, and if you get the metal part, it was really cold. Rubber grip, at least it wasn't, didn't freeze your fingers off.
You mentioned Ron Hinton a moment ago. Is he the one coach that stands out amongst all you've ever covered?
Well, I mean, obviously Ron, because the championships and his years as, all the success they had there at Amanda Clear Creek. I've been privileged to work with a lot of great coaches. Not all of them have won state championships, but people that I still see out, obviously Jeff Sheets is one of those guys who's, the living legend. Hopefully Jeff's not watching. His head's big enough. But I still run into Jeff every now and then. And, and of course, when Mindy Fusetti played at Ohio State, we had, I had a pair of, season passes to go up and cover the game. So a lot of times Jeff would ride up with me and use my other pass to watch Mindy play. And
of course, now Mindy's married to the sheriff.
Mindy is now married to the sheriff, so I got to be extra nice to her. Fortunately, we've always been good for all those years, so I don't worry about that. And I never knew Matt until he became sheriff, but he's a super nice guy too, so I'm not too worried about it.
Another Taste Valley guy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, another Taste Valley guy. So.
Any of the other personalities, sports-wise, because I assume you're involved in some fashion in helping with the Bowser Award for basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so obviously that award was always given by the Herald, and then as things changed, we took it over at Sporting Pumpkin. One of the cool times was somewhere in the 90s. Tony Picklesheimer was at Westfall, who's a really good ball player, and his grandfather was the very first winner of the Bowser Award. And I had one or two summers I worked at DuPont. I was going to college. My dad worked down there, so I hired summer kids. And I'd worked with his grandfather on the same shift for a year or two. So it was kind of cool. Like, we got to give Tony the award, and his grandfather was there and come up and have him give his grandson the award. And that's been going, I can't think of the first year now, the Bowser. That's since like the 50s, I think, early 50s. The interesting part about that was, like, nobody from Circleville won it till the 70s, because it was always given to it started out as like the MVP of the county tournament. Mm-hmm. Well, Circleville never played in the county tournament. It was all the township schools. Mm-hmm. So that, then, because if you would look at it, like, how did Circleville not win this for the first 25 years or whatever it was that they were getting the award?
Because they were the big school in Pickaway County.
Yeah, and which is, for the old SCOL people to understand that, it was like, that's why they were in this league with Hillsborough and Courthouse and everybody, because all the township schools, and they were a big city school, for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah. So, it didn't do Circleville any good to play, or not saying good, but, there was no point in Circleville playing Pickaway Township because it was just a different. Yeah. So,
Circleville is the only one that had to lose in that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, when you look at it that way.
It's hard to believe. Of course, it's gone now because the fairgrounds is all new buildings. But there was a time for many years that the county tournament was held at the old Coliseum on the fairgrounds.
And so one of my old jobs years ago, I was over in Lancaster. We were doing something. I was talking to a gentleman, and he graduated from Scioto Township High School. And we were talking in some sports, and I said, we're any good? He goes, yeah, it's a pretty good basketball player. I asked him, I said, did you score 1,000 points? And he goes, I don't know, I may have. It was like, we didn't track that back then. He goes, if anybody remembers me, it'll be for hitting the game-winning shot in the county tournament that went over the rafter. Oh. And so a couple years later, I started doing a bunch of research on 1,000-point scores, and I started with him. I'm like, so I'm going back through newspapers.com. The site's got all these old newspapers on it. I'm going back. I have got this guy to 995 points.
Oh, wow.
And I'm missing 2-3 games maybe from like his freshman or sophomore year.
Yeah.
So it's like I know he's got 1,000 points, but I can't prove it, so he's not on the list. But I did find an article in the semifinal. They mentioned that he hit a shot at the buzzer, like a full court shot at the buzzer. So
Wow.
he wasn't.
So there
making
was
it up.
true.
He wasn't making it up.
I really enjoyed some of the features you had Greg Bigham doing. And the one that I thought was hilarious that I'd never heard was the controversial tournament game, I think, or regular season game, where the referee was a bank president, and people went the following Monday to withdraw all of their money from his bank.
People take this serious. I was trying to explain to the guy I worked with the other day, because he'd gone up, he's talking about he's driving through Massillon. He goes, man, they love their football team up there. And I said, there are people that have had the same season tickets for 30, 40, 50 years. I'm like, that's how much that's like, it's people take their high school sports serious, and some places a little more serious than others.
I know when I did research on the history of Chillicothe football, early on in all the stories, they put the names of the referees in the stories. And I thought to myself, now they try to be as nameless as possible. Their lines on the floor, that kind of thing. But back then, they were personalities, and I can imagine people showing up at their front door.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people, Sunday at church could be a little awkward.
Oh, yeah. Get up here and repent.
Yeah, can you imagine if he was a pastor?
Yeah, exactly.
Where did the congregation go?
Yes.
Suddenly transitioned to another location.
That's right.
Anything that we have missed here that you wanted to address?
Oh, I did. Well, you was looking at one of the pictures back there is Cam McDaniel getting his arm raised. This was kind of a fun year. It's like we had like 13 kids from the area who made the state wrestling tournament. Which I'm not gonna lie to you, it was a busy couple days. But the last couple of years, seen Cam get second both times at the state tournament, and it's like I knew he's on a mission. And to see him get that championship the kid's a great kid. I covered his dad playing sports, football, and wrestling when he was at Tays Valley. And then to see Cam finally get that championship. And then just a couple minutes later, Circleville's Trent Fulgham, who you probably couldn't meet a nicer kid. If he was mean, he probably would have won a couple more championships. But just a super nice kid. And he comes in and claims that'd be Circleville's fourth individual, I believe. Yeah. 5th state title, but 4th individual. Cam's only Tays Valley's 2nd state champion. To see him get one too, it's just like, that makes a long weekend, there was 14-hour days probably at those wrestling sessions, especially the first day. To see those kids get that, accomplish that is just so special. And I felt, honored to be there, especially not to say watching Cam get second the last couple of years. I know the disappointment he felt, and of course he's won a couple national championships at Fargo, and he won one out there at Las Vegas a couple weeks ago. I know you said you're going to do something with him. He's going to try for make it to the U.S. World Team here in a couple weeks. So to see kids like that just succeed and do well. One of the pictures you see in the podium at the state track meet last year, the young lady from Westfall who won the state pole vault. And I tell you, it was great about that. You're sitting there, they have a tent between the pole vault pits for media and the competitors can sit in the shade while they're waiting for their turn. And I'm sitting on the one bench, and she's on the other side. And, she doesn't know me really. And she's just talking. She's just telling the girl, she was like, isn't this fun? This is so much fun. And it's like, they're all like nervous and quiet. She's just having a great time. And maybe it's because she felt pretty confident she was going to beat them all. I don't know. But she did. But, that was just a lot of fun to see that happen. So
I think it's an attitude that you have to take with you into competitive sports like this to make it fun.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Bernie Kosar talk about this and Pete Rose talk about this, these incredible moments in tight games, and they just kind of break up the monotony of it all, just saying, or the tension of it all, to say, isn't this fun?
Yeah. And that's what
we get to do this.
Yeah. And that's what, what the Sporting Pumpkin, we're trying to do is like the traditional media, it's got its struggles and they make an effort. It's just tough. limited resources and that kind of thing. So we're able to get out and get all these, or much more of this out there at least. There's still a recognition issue. I've talked to somebody the other day. It's like, are you still covering games for the paper? And I'm like, well, no, I got this website for the last. Oh, I didn't know that. It's like, so, it's because it's different. You got to get work and getting that out. But the nice thing is that, if you want, you can hit the subscribe button. Every time a new story posts, it comes to your email box, your inbox. So you can just get it. You don't have to even go to the website. You can just read it right there on your phone in your email or wherever you read your email. But it's like we get out there and we don't make everything, because just right now it's basically two of us. And in the springtime, I was telling you guys before we started, my day job really makes it rough. And then the weather, so I don't do a lot in the spring. Looking forward to going to the state track meet next weekend. I think we're going to have maybe 6 to 10 kids up there. Kind of running the numbers the other day to see who I think is going to make it out. So that'll be fun to see it because there's a couple that, like one was on the podium, or a couple on the podium last year that should hopefully be back on the podium this year. I think we can get 1 or 2 more on the podium next weekend. So looking forward to seeing how that works out. And then rejuvenate over the summer, and we got football. New coach at Tays Valley. See how that they had playing some young kids and some good core returners to their last year in the Mid-State League before they go to the OCC. So that'll be different, but it's all good because they're it's just fun watching these kids grow and perform and achieve, and hope to see a lot more of that.
The Circleville Tigers baseball team says we're going to add to your headache, John. We're going to try to get a district championship tonight.
That'll be awesome. I would love that because. I think Brad will be down there. I can't make that tonight, but hopefully when this game go to the regional, and I'd love to see that happen, and maybe I can make that game to see him.
The year they got to Huntington Park in the state tournament, that was neat to cover them that year.
That was a lot of fun. I mean, and of course that's just a beautiful setting. And that's one of the cool things too. It's like people will give the OHSA a hard time about, and sometimes it's deserved, sometimes it's not. But I really do believe that they make the best effort to make a good experience for the kids, and they get them in some great facilities. Now they play up at Akron at their stadium, and I've not been in it. I've been place where you can look into it and see it, and it looks like it's a beautiful ballpark. I mean, you can't really complain about that. In the Jesse Owens facility for track, the of course playing at the Shot for basketball, all that and wrestling at the Shot. And that with 10,000, 12,000, whatever that holds for wrestling, that many people there watching and cheering. It's just great atmosphere. It's not that the high school gym on Friday night's not fun, because those can be way louder sometimes and way more intimidating depending on who's playing. But to for the kids to be able to play in those kind of facilities, that's just a dream come true, and I hope they truly appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, one more thing about the OHSAA, what they have done to make it an event has changed things too. I remember when 2008 was the first time they'd turned the lights off to introduce the kids for basketball, and Chillicothe got to be a part of that. Yes. So seeing that was really cool. But none of them get to enjoy what they do at the state wrestling tournament with fireworks and the whole deal. Yes. That was incredible watching some of that this year.
Oh yeah, and that's the introductions of the champions and the competitors for the championship is so cool. The parade and like this year, because they added girls wrestling, that was pretty interesting too, and got kind of fun. Ava Miller from Tays Valley, the first girl to win a match at the state tournament because even though the way the schedule worked out, that was pretty cool. But yeah, to parade them out, and it was kind of cool before when they had the 3 mats, they had a stage that they set up put the mats on, but with 4, I think it was logistically not going to work out. So, to see that kind of atmosphere and everybody get to come out, and there's, especially at that, when you start, the place is full because everybody's there to watch the matches. By the end of the night, it's cleared out a little bit because the people who are there to watch the 103, they're probably not sticking around to watch the heavyweight, but
right. But it was worthwhile sticking around to watch the heavyweight this year.
Yes.
Pickaway County. I know this is in production. We've got an interview with Cam McDaniel that we'll share with you here in the coming days. And Cam talks about what is ahead for him, because he has a trip on the schedule this summer to go down to Santiago, Chile, and he will be wrestling in the Worlds there. If he wins there, he goes to Poland, or not, Czechoslovakia. One of the Eastern Bloc countries. So he'll have an opportunity to go there as well. And he's going to be training at the Olympic trial facility now, training center there in Colorado Springs for the next year.
Yeah, I was looking at Nebraska's wrestling team because he's going to go to Nebraska when all that's over.
Yeah.
As if that isn't enough right there. I was looking at that thinking, there's there's 30 kids on the wrestling team and there's only 10 weight classes in college wrestling. I'm like, but I have a feeling Cam will be wrestling varsity for several years, that he will not be waiting for a spot. Right. Not that those kids aren't determined too, but he's just a special athlete. And actually first saw him playing sports when he was in Pee Wee football at the park. He was on the same team as my girlfriend's little kid, so that's for so he was a quarterback on the football team back then. Wow. For whatever they were.
One of the hardest nosed runners I've ever seen. And then for him to turn around and say, I'm going to concentrate on wrestling. That had to be a big blow for Mark Weber and the staff at TSU.
Well, yeah, because he tweaked his knee right at the end of his football season as a junior and missed a couple weeks of wrestling. And yeah, I know I'm sure he loves playing football, but he knows wrestling is his thing, and you gotta make those tough decisions.
That's right, and it's a free education. So
exactly,
and that helps mom and dad out, I'm sure. Thank you so much for giving of your time, and the photos that you see behind us. You can't purchase. There's Ava, by the way.
Yeah, yes.
You can't purchase the state championship stuff, but your other material is up for grabs.
Pretty much everything else is up there. I'll give it a plug because why not? I could use the money.
Everybody loves pizza.
Well,
Why not?
So, in the last 2 years, I think I've spent $13,000 on camera and lenses. So you can understand why. John Howley, JohnHowley.smugmug.com. It goes back 10, 12 years. So if you played, maybe want to see if there's pictures of you up there, they're still there. And sports photos make great graduation gifts. You can just download the digital image and go get them printed at home or take them to CVS or whatever. And
people are asking now, what is that address again? Go, just roll back. When this is done being live, it'll be able to be viewed, and it'll be available also on our YouTube channel as well. John Howley, give your cohort in crime our best.
Yes.
All right, I will tell Brad that you guys said hello.
Absolutely.
It's always good.
He may be watching right now.
I hope so, because he's probably shaking his head at me.
I know he's more involved with Twitter than he is Facebook, so maybe he had to open a Facebook account today to watch. So, hi, Brad. Thank you for watching. That's it for the program. We'll be back again coming up, let's see, next week, another Fairfield County edition.
Yes, correct.
At 10 o'clock on Wednesday. Every first and third Wednesday of the month, it is Fairfield County and Pickaway County featured on the second and the fourth Wednesdays of the month. Thank you so much for watching, and always on demand here on Facebook as well as on YouTube. For John Howley, for Mike Smith, I'm Dan Ramey. See you with our daily show coming up in just a moment here on Litter Media Live.